People walking on the streets at night, the scariest things they've seen. Tiny hands reaching from the sewer grate. One time I saw tiny hands reaching up from a sewer grate. It took a minute before I realized it was just a raccoon. It was terrifying at first, but after a second it sounded pretty cute. I imagine the raccoon was probably thinking, "Please, help me, I need to get out of here." Tarantula on a crosswalk. I saw a tarantula crossing the street on a crosswalk like a law-abiding pedestrian. It was like the spider was trying to be a good role model for the other spiders. Mysterious man on a hill with a rifle. I was hiking up a hill late at night when suddenly a man with a rifle appeared out of nowhere. He ran past me and I never saw him again. I immediately ran home after that. 2 deer fighting and then I saw 2 deer fighting. They then screamed at each other and then they started mating. It was like watching a standard married couple. Body with a sign saying, "I stole phones." I saw a body on the side of the road with a sign around its neck that said, "I stole phones." This was about 20 years ago in Manila, Philippines. One time I was out for a walk at night when I had a feeling to turn back. I saw someone suddenly hide behind a tree. I stood still for a second to figure out what was happening, but quickly started heading home. It was terrifying. Screaming sheep. I live in the countryside. One night, while walking with my girlfriend, we heard a loud scream that sounded human. Turns out it was just a sheep, but we still got scared. Terrifying deer scream and footsteps. I remember one time when my wife and I were hanging out in the backyard late at night, enjoying a joint. Suddenly, we heard a terrifying scream followed by loud stomping, like something big running toward us from the forest. My wife rushed inside and nearly slammed the door on me. A few months later, I found out it was just a deer that had jumped over a broken fence, but it scared the living daylights out of me. Suicide in the park. I saw a guy who had hanged himself in the park. I called 911, answered some questions, and had to wait for hours while the police questioned me. Later, they confirmed it was a suicide. Guy overdosing. I found a guy who had overdosed in a busy area. I was the only one who stopped and tried to wake him up, but his stomach wasn't moving and he was pale. I called 911 and it took them 6 hours to figure out that he had overdosed. Naked cyclist. A guy rode past me on a bicycle. He was wearing a jacket, shoes, and a cap, but no pants or underwear. At first, I couldn't believe it. I had just seen a naked guy riding a bike. 2 moons in the sky. Some people saw 2 moons in the sky that night. We saw a massive female moose and her calf about 30 meters away from us. They were enormous and could easily trample you to death if they got angry. The body in the forest. I thought I had found a dead body in the woods. After a few phone calls with the police, I went back with them and it turned out to be just a drunk guy who had fought with his girlfriend. It was still unsettling. Witness to a possible abduction. One late evening, I went out to get some mail when I saw a woman in pajamas surrounded by cars. A few men were arguing with her, then shoved her into one of the cars and drove off. I found a slipper nearby. I called the police, but I never found out what happened. Strange footprints on a country road. I live in the countryside, and one night I went for a run along a dirt road. It had rained earlier, and when I did a second lap, I noticed fresh footprints next to mine. They were much larger than mine and seemed to follow the same path I took. I quickly finished my run and went home, never seeing anyone. Lost boy in the snow. It was winter in a remote area with no cell service, and it was minus 10 degrees Celsius. I was walking my dog with a flashlight when I heard someone screaming. I was about to run away, thinking someone was in trouble, but I found a lost 5-year-old boy screaming loudly in the snow. He was wearing only thin pants and a t-shirt and no hat. I took him in my arms and carried him to a neighbor's house to warm him up and get help. Machete-wielding man chasing my boyfriend. My boyfriend and I went for a walk late at night in a seemingly safe neighborhood. Suddenly, a man with a hammer in one hand and a machete in the other ran up to us. It turned out that a man had just broken into my boyfriend's apartment and was trying to kidnap his daughter, so my boyfriend chased him. The man thought my boyfriend was the intruder, but luckily everything turned out okay. Giant rats or puppies? I was studying abroad in Bangalore, India, when I saw a giant rat come out of a sewer grate. It was bigger than any rat I had ever seen. Then more rats started coming out of the same grate. But then I realized they weren't rats at all, they were a group of puppies hiding in the sewer. It was gross, but less scary than I initially thought. Creepy encounter in the mountains. We were camping in the mountains when we saw a strange man standing behind a tree. He was dressed in a bloody t-shirt, had long hair, and a crazy look in his eyes. He told us it wasn't a good idea to camp there, then ran off into the forest. We decided to leave and saw him chasing our van with a red flashlight. We reported it to a park ranger, and the man was later arrested for the murder of a girl on the mountain trail. I'm convinced we saw him right after he killed someone. Thank you very much for watching. Write your similar stories in the comments below the video and don't forget to watch our other episodes.